Tom here, negotiating with Jesus. I'm going to do another chapter of Mark. I just want to review. We met Jesus, but first, ministry of John the Baptist. He baptizes Jesus. Jesus starts calling disciples, casting out demons, and people are amazed. He heals a leper. So chapter 2, much smaller, goes something like this. Now, after some days, when he returned to Capernaum, the news spread that he was at home. So many gathered there that there was no longer any room, not even by the door. And he preached the word to them. So the word being, he's talking probably just some of his own ideas based on the Jewish Bible, the Old Testament. Some people came bringing to him a paralytic, carried by 4 of them. When they were not able to bring him in because of the crowd, they removed the roof above Jesus. So that's crazy. And they actually must care about this person, and they think Jesus can do something. Then, after tearing it out, they lowered the stretcher the paralytic was lying on. When Jesus saw their faith, he said to the paralytic, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Now, some of the experts of the law were sitting there, turning these things over in their minds. "Why do you speak this way? He is blaspheming. Who can forgive sins but God alone?" Now, immediately, when Jesus realized in his spirit that they were contemplating such thoughts, so they didn't say them out loud, they were turning these things over in their mind. When he realized they were contemplating such thoughts, he said to them, "Why are you thinking such things in your hearts? Which is easier, to say to the paralytic, 'Your sins are forgiven,' or to say, 'Stand up, take your stretcher and walk'? But so that you may know that the Son of Man has authority on earth to forgive sins," he said to the paralytic, "I tell you, stand up, take your stretcher, and go home." And immediately the man stood up, took his stretcher, and went out in front of all of them. They were all amazed and glorified God, saying, "We have never seen anything like this." So the beginning, they can't believe Jesus. Who says things and does things like this? And again, this is a book of immediately things happen and everyone is astonished. Jesus went out again by the sea. The whole crowd came to him and he taught them. As he went along, he saw Levi, the son of Alphaeus, sitting at the tax booth. "Follow me," he said to him. And he got up and followed him. As Jesus was having a meal in Levi's home, many tax collectors and sinners, people who missed the mark, tax collectors, and rather disliked group, tax collectors and sinners were eating with Jesus and his disciples, for there were many who followed him. When the experts of the law and the Pharisees saw that he was eating with sinners and tax collectors, they said to his disciples, "Why does he eat with tax collectors and sinners?" When Jesus heard this, he said to them, "Those who are healthy don't need a physician, but those who are sick do. I have not come to call the righteous, but sinners." Pretty good response. Now John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting. So they came to Jesus and said, "Why did the disciples of John and the disciples of the Pharisees fast? They go without eating for some amount of time. But your disciples don't fast." Jesus said to them, "The wedding guests cannot fast while the bridegroom is with them, can they? As long as they have the bridegroom with them, they do not fast. But the days are coming when the bridegroom will be taken from them, and at that time they will fast. No one sews a patch of unshrunk cloth on an old garment. Otherwise, the patch pulls away from it, the new from the old, and the tear becomes worse. No one pours new wine into old wineskins. Otherwise, the wine will burst the skins, and both the wine and the skins will be destroyed. Instead, new wine is poured into new wineskins." So, a couple interesting insights that Jesus is saying he's doing something new. And he likens it to a tear and in an old wineskin, a new patch, something like that. Jesus was going through the grain fields on a Sabbath, and his disciples began to pick some heads of wheat as they made their way. So the Pharisees said to them, "Look, why are you doing what is against the law on the Sabbath?" He said to them, "Have you never read what David did when he was in need and he and his companions were hungry? How he entered the house of God when Abiathar was high priest and ate the sacred bread, which is against the law for any but the priest to eat. And he also gave it to his companions. Then he said to them, the Sabbath was made for people, not people for the Sabbath. For this reason, the Son of Man is Lord even of the Sabbath." So that's chapter 2. And Jesus is going to do things that rattle the authorities and delight the people, the tax collectors, the sinners, the prostitutes, the sick and the needy. And he's going to do that, and they're going to be delighted with him, and he's going to make enemies. So chapter 2, we're going to keep going. That's it for now.